All right, let's talk about the face. And we'll start with the eyes. We'll start with this look at control, which is hanging out in front of the head. This decides where the eyes are pointing. Both eyes are actually pointing to an individual control within that main control, so you can actually pose the eyes within the main control, like a cross-eyed, and then decide where they're looking together. The control for the pupil dilation is also on this main control. You have individual control over both the right and left pupil. Let's talk about the eyelids. So lots of controls on the eyelids, but basically you just want to use these two controls here on the bottom and the top. By translating up and down on Y, you'll be able to blink them. You can move them together. You can even rotate them to give some shape. They're completely mirrored, so you only have to use one direction for each eyelid. If you want to shape the eyelid, you have a couple options. You can use these tweakers, which I really like, or you can simply just rotate the eyelid a little bit to get that shape. If you rotate them together, they'll kind of match their position. The brows are very straightforward. You can see you have a control here and a control on the right, and this controls all three of those individual controls together. You can move them up and down, and you can rotate them. And of course, you have control over each section of the brow individually. When you grab these two inner controls and you're in object mode, you can see that you activate the furrows. This gives you some really nice anger and surprise. Next, we have these upper cheek controls. They're very much like the brows, where there's one main control for the three sub-controls. When you move it up and down, you see that it activates the lower eyelid. Of course, if this gets in your way, or it's interrupting a blink that you have, you can turn that off with the eyelid follow attribute. You can adjust each one of these controls individually, should you want to. And if you feel you're not going to have much use for those, you can clean up the interface a little bit by turning them off, as they are sub-controls. There's quite a bit of control in the lips. You're probably going to use these three in the middle and the outer corners. When you grab the outer corners, you really get some nice effects when you pull them apart and move them up, in which you'll get a smile, sort of a frown, and if you move them together, you start to get this ooh shape. This will give you lots of options for speaking and for emotions. These three controls represent the upper lip, the lower lip, and the mouth. The mouth as a whole can be translated and rotated, and the upper and lower lip can be moved individually as well. What's nice about these two controls is actually a roll and a bulge, so you can roll them in and out to get certain shapes. You can also bulge the lips or thin them. These individual controls will come in handy for really fine-tuning them, but we probably won't use them much at all. The jaw is very straightforward, as it can be rotated and translated as expected. And the cheeks can be translated in and out, up and down. And they also have a custom puff attribute. So in the positive direction, it inflates the cheeks. In the negative, it kind of deflates them or sucks them in. You also have three squash controls. The top of the head, the middle of the face, and the lower part of the face and the jaw. Great for doing some chewing action. If you translate them left and right, you can actually steer the squash. And lastly, we have these two crunch controls. I would use these with caution, as they actually pose a lot of the controls of the eyes and the upper cheeks. So you have something like a blink already in place, they may override them a little bit or multiply them a little bit. But if you want to get to a really, really quick scrunchy face, you can do that with this control. So that's the face. Hope you have a lot of fun with it.